Hello friends, David Weigelt here. Welcome to our next episode of Leaders on Tap, where I am super excited for the conversation that you're about to hear with Vineet Rajan, the CEO and co-founder of a mental fitness company called Forte. So thanks again to our friends at RAK Brewing, where we are every fourth Thursday of the month. We invite you to join us for this live audience conversation. I hope you enjoy what you're about to hear. So you and I are just going to break into conversation here.
Let's go.
Vineet, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being on Leaders on Tap.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome. Excited to have this conversation. You and I have gotten to know each other well over the past several years.
That's right.
So are you ready? Are you a little scared?
No, never scared. I'm pumped. Pumped.
Never surrender?
Never surrender.
We're going to talk about surrender versus submit today.
Get your papers out. Ready. Let's go.
Get your notes. So Vineet, obviously, this podcast is about how we bring our faith to work, and it's about business and growing our businesses. Before we go there, tell us a little bit about Vineet outside of Forte.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Really proud that my daughter's here with me, so that's a big part of my life outside of Forte. But grew up in Maryland, joined the Marines the week after 9/11, spent 11 years in the Marine Corps, and then ended up, a long story short, back here in Maryland, which I'm excited to be back here. People like you and some friends in the room. Got a son, Nehemiah, a daughter, Neylah, my wife, Sandhya, and we live in Highland, Maryland, and really busy with travel, baseball, and track, and percussion, and piano, and all the things outside of work, which is really exciting.
Do you feel like in this season of life, God put those things in place to slow you down as you're trying to get this startup off the ground?
I'd like to slow down. In some ways, it's speeding up, right? But it's speeding up in the things that don't need you to be productive. They need you to be present.
Right. That's what I mean.
And it definitely does that. It forces you to do that, maybe in ways that I don't want to. But it's a really good speed check.
So you and I met during the lockdown, during the COVID lockdown, and I distinctly remember I had kind of created a war room in one part of my house, and we were having almost daily conversations. And that was really when this change happened in your life, when you went from doing one thing to deciding that you were being called to build something else. So tell us about that story.
Yeah. So I left the Marines and ended up going to business school on the West Coast, and I thought I heard I was supposed to lead a company, and by a bunch of events, ended up being back in Maryland looking for, actually technically in Virginia, looking for a company to buy. And it was great. It was awesome. Got to learn so much about business. And in that process, just kind of walking in the woods, praying, felt like God said, you're not going to buy one, you're going to build one. You're going to start one. And I thought that was a terrible idea. There's lots of founders in the room. You know it's a terrible idea. And if you're not called for it, you ain't going to make it. And I dragged my feet for some time. And I think walking in the woods, talking to you, I got some encouragement to, hey, if that's what God is saying, you got to pursue that. So we had to shut the other thing down, which is painful in its own way. And I wasn't scared, but I was healthily nervous about starting something new several years ago. So it's easy to say now, it was pretty difficult at the time.
I remember you repeatedly saying, I need to be a co-CEO. I can't do this.
Right.
Even as you had invested heavily in your education and an MBA.
Yep.
And so that walk in the woods, and by the way, Maryland's only old growth forest, probably something only I appreciate.
Yep.
Out west. And you heard, no, you were being called to do something different. And that took some courage, right?
It took a lot of courage, and if I'm being honest, because anything worthwhile pursuing, you're not qualified to do, in my opinion. If you're not on the deep end of the water, you're treading. And at that point, what's the point? So I felt very unqualified, still feel very unqualified. But if we're using the co-CEO language, well, there's one CEO and there's one owner, and it's not me. I get to steward it, though. And he'll give me what I need when I need it.
So talk about Forte. What's so special about that? Why was that so important that God would call you away from this thing that you were doing, which was good work, and have you pursue this?
Yeah. I mean, who would ever thought that a Marine interrogator guy who ran espionage would be running a mental fitness company? I mean, think about the stupidity of that line, right? There is no line. Like they don't even fit on the same book, let alone the same shelf. But Forte is really about, it means strength. And I'm a pretty weak guy. But his strength is made perfect in my weakness. And so any opportunity that we can go on the deep end with him and let him lead us, that's what it's all about. And I wanted to live that out in my own life, regardless of how Forte ends up or not. That isn't the point of this. God doesn't necessarily need or care about that. He cares about who I'm becoming in the journey of holding on to his hand. So Forte is really about helping everyone find their strength that they have in their embodied self. We're all finite, fragile, fallen, and fallible humans. We're all effed. Newsflash, we're all effed, right? Finite, fragile, fallen, and fallible. Me, king amongst those people. And in that reality of our finite condition, or our fallen and fragile and fallible condition, we can see the goodness of what it means to be a human, a dad or a mom or a brother or sister, CEO or bartender or pastor or teacher. And Forte is really to help that individual person remember the strength of who they are right now in their messy life. And if we could do that, and our kids could do that, we can solve some of the greatest problems on under the sun. That's what Forte is about.
In many ways, Forte, Paraclete, when you started,
right?
You've rebranded, but you've had a lot of the twists and turns that you would expect from a lean startup or a lean startup approach, right? You've been really smart to identify the signals, to be talking to customers. Talk about the shift from what was originally described as soul care, but for a secular workplace.
Yep.
And the shift then to mental fitness.
Yeah. So I think some of you who know me in the room, I'm a nerd. And I like talking about weird things. And the word soul and soul care is a deeply historic and meaningful set of words in the religious world. But in the secular world, it doesn't connotate the same kind of meaning. And we started in the public markets serving, just traditional companies. Blockchain companies, health insurance companies.
Social media.
Yeah. We worked with a lot of different companies, and they thought and found the idea of soul care, caring for the soul, the person that they hired, really interesting and attractive. It was hard to explain to them, and from a marketing perspective, what is that? So that was difficult. We were called Paraclete. That's difficult to spell, let alone say.
Explain the origin of Paraclete.
So Paraclete, the Greek origin means helper that comes alongside, right? And so what we're trying to do is help people. You're in the driver's seat. We want to be next to you and come alongside you so you run this race well. That was the intentional meaning of that word, but you can't spell it. You can't say it. Yeah. Nobody can find you. Yeah. It doesn't help the mission. So we rebranded to Forte, connotates the same meaning, but a lot easier to say and spell. But we moved to mental fitness because where soul care was really appropriate, it had some deficiencies. Mental fitness, like physical fitness, I hope connotates a couple of things: that you've never arrived. Any of you guys and gals who work out know you're not done working out, ever. Like, you're never done. It also is something that you do on a regular basis because you don't want to get injured, right? You don't do it when you're injured. You do it so you don't get injured. And then the last thing about mental fitness that I think is really good is the idea that actually you can continually build your strength in different ways for different seasons. So we went from soul care to mental fitness because that's a better category of what we provide to the marketplace.
Your model's interesting. I know we've had this conversation, and you always challenge me that you aren't trying to compete with chaplaincy or replicate chaplaincy. And yet we've had a lot of conversations about chaplaincy. You wanted a broader appeal, but to care for the whole person. And I'll never forget one talk you gave. I think this is the point at which Steph and I were committed to being more a part of Forte. And you shared a stat, I don't remember the source, but it was like 20 years ago, the average person had 3 to 5 people that they could go and tell anything to. And today, I think it was like, this was a couple of years ago, it was like 0.7.
Right. Yeah, the original stat, if I recall, was that in the 80s, the average American had 3 to 5 close confidants, people that they knew them, They cared for them, their neighbor, their person at the Y, the country club, whatever it is. The average American now has less than one confidant available. So we're the most connected population ever, and we're also the most isolated or lonely, right? The former Surgeon General said it's the equivalency of packing a pack of cigarettes a day. So we've got a real problem. It's systematic, it's societal, and that's not going to be solved by any one silver bullet, but we need to add more solutions to the mix.
What has equally impressed me about how you've thought about the model is how it's truly a win-win-win, including the people that serve, right? You call them coaches now.
Coaches.
Talk about that a little bit, the thought that went into the business model design.
Yeah, so we're doing all the things that should tell you that we should fail pretty quickly, and we're trying to not hit that marker here, right? We're a public benefit corporation, which is to say that we want a societal benefit, and we're not only maximizing profit. We're a for-profit institution, but we hold both of those near and dear to us. So that's already complex. Number two, we're a preventative solution. And if you're in the public health world, you know that preventative solutions are really hard to get population level buy-in, let alone anybody to pay for it in cash. So that's the second part. The third thing is we're a platform. We're a two-sided marketplace, so we have members or employees on one side. We sell to a business, a church, a private school, a public school, an accounting firm, a lumber firm. It doesn't really matter. We sell to a business, the business buys it, and the employees are on one side of the platform. They're the beneficiaries of the benefit. On the other side is our mental fitness coaches. They're not employees of Forte, and that was intentional. We wanted people who are world-class at their own trade craft, whether that be a pastor, a therapist, a counselor, a coach. And we wanted them to bring that wisdom and experience and credentialing to our platform to deliver that service to the employee that they'll never see in public. And so those people are our coaches. They get trained on our proprietary methodology. They get certified in our methodology. They use our platform to deliver our service on a daily basis. What I didn't expect is how blessed those people would be to be able to serve a fellow man or woman on the other side of the call. And that's been really cool to see.
I want to talk about the engagement and practically how this plays out at the employer-employee level. But one of the things that's impressed me, and I think the reason behind the success that you've had, is the caliber of your coaches. And the way that model plays out, not only do you have high engagement, but you're able to pay them above average and offer them the flexibility that, frankly, the labor pool's looking for. Yeah. Right? So you would say those coaches are key to your success so far?
I mean, for every single coach at Forte, they're the ones that deliver the magic. Full stop. We're a human company. So at the end of the day, we have lots of tech and lots of matching algorithms and analytics packages and all the things. But at the end of the day, it's one human getting to know another human story fully. And those coaches on the other side of the call are messy humans like us. But they index really high on caring for the story of your employee as a great human that they are. Yeah. And so they're the bread and butter of the company.
So any employer or business owner that's listening to this is going to say, oh, so this is an EAP. Yeah. I know what that means. I spend so much every month, and maybe 1% of my population, my employees, are going to engage. Yeah. What have your results been, in fact?
Well, first of all, most employers have no idea they have an EAP. They don't even know what an EAP is, the Employee Assistance Program. Most employers have no clue that they have it. And if they have no clue that they have it, why would we think the employee would know they have it? Right? They just don't know. It's buried in some legal paperwork that was thrown into their package, and they don't know what it is. The EAP on an annualized basis, before I put everybody to sleep here, is just in a year, if you have 100 employees, one person will use it. So you're really not doing anything with that. If we're just going to be honest with ourselves, it doesn't do anything at all for you. It does help. I don't want to minimize that. It does help one or two people, a percentage or two of your population, but it isn't the paradigm shift, the people strategy that will keep your employees, get the best and brightest to work for you for the long term. That is not your people strategy. And if that's what you think it is, you're lying to yourself. Forte doesn't compete against an EAP. EAP is designed to be underutilized, be reactive, and to help really provide really good clinical care for somebody who might be in a very particularly challenging season of their life. Forte is the polar opposite of that, right? We want everybody can and should use Forte. Not 1%. We want 100%. We'll never get there maybe, but we're sure as heck going to try. We have people bragging about Forte to their employer. You want somebody to brag to you as a boss? Give them something you're going to use and value. That's worth a couple $1,000s, right? Let's just do that. It's not burdened by FICA. They're going to help find you better employees. They're going to show up to your job, CS, sales, product, teaching, pastoring, whatever it is, because they're alive on the inside. If you can show me as an employer what will help them become more alive on the inside, I'll shut the heck up and go home. But you don't got it. That's just a fact. So the reality is, let's help them do that. And when they do, guess what? 95% of them say they're better off mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. 95%. 96% say they're more productive at work. You know what your highest spend in your P&L? Your wages, right? Unburdened and then burdened, you stack on another 20 to 25%. I got some accountants in the room, so I gotta be careful, right? But the reality is that actually it's your biggest lever for profit or mission accomplishment. It's also your highest cost basis. So if you want to leverage as a CEO or CFO, it's your people, right? So let's get your people alive and get them to work and help them realize that you care about them as a human. And if they do, and they're a better dad or mom or brother or sister, it's not shocking they come to work just freaking different. That's what Forte is about.
With all the buzz around AI, and
Yeah.
certainly small to medium-sized businesses, SMBs or owners are very excited about it and looking for those efficiencies.
Totally.
Help them think about what Forte does in the context of AI.
Yeah. So there's two things here. There's an article that I wrote at Christianity Today, in this case, about wisdom of using AI and wisdom of leveraging humans. Most arguments that, first of all, we're super users of AI here at Forte. We use it all the time, every single day. I try to break. I think I crushed the token count at our company. It's like insane, right? My ops manager probably tells me to ramp that down a little bit. But we're all about automating process. We're all about getting efficiencies. We're not all about replacing a human-to-human interaction. So we go back to COVID and we think about what happened. We shut down the entire world. It's a great natural experiment. We shut down the entire world. Nobody can go outside. We still have Facebook. We still have, or Meta. We still have Twitter. We still have Instagram. We still have TikTok. We still have all this stuff. Why did mental health just plummet? It's because we're meant to do life together. And so technology was still there, right? Didn't work. If your mom or dad, God forbid, gets really ill, and you tell that employee to go talk to the chat bot, what do you think your NPS is going to be as an employer? Because you got no empathy. Because if you were in that spot, you don't want to talk to a chat bot. You want to talk to a human who's finite, fragile, fallen, and fallible, and scared as heck of cancer, right? Or whatever the thing is. So we're all about using AI. It's artificial, though. It's not real. We want human intelligence leveraging on human life. So we don't replace the human-to-human interaction. We leverage technology around to facilitate that human interaction.
With people listening and hearing your excitement about that, the question that might follow is, Forte clearly is using AI a lot. They're having these intimate conversations with our employees. So what about privacy?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. Just to be clear, we don't record our calls. There is no recording of those audio calls between a coach and an employee or a member. We don't use AI in those calls. We use AI to develop the software stack to facilitate those calls. So again, I think you should be using AI to help you with all sorts of efficiencies. Leveraging it to process data, anonymized, of course. Leveraging it to automate some interactions in your workflow. But no, we don't have AI anywhere in those calls. Those calls are not recorded. So that is an audio call. That is a secure bridge on the back end between a member and their coach. And what stays between, what's discussed between that is confidential.
In my previous company, when we had chaplaincy, they did provide high-level, anonymized reports, depersonalized reports that were really helpful.
Yeah.
And we found out that our team had some challenges that for a white collar workforce we didn't anticipate. Is there any of that with Forte?
So I was an intel officer. I love using data. I think it's great. If you can, we do like population health level data, anonymize it, aggregate it at scale, try to drive insights. Because employers who work with Forte want to be able to take steps for their population. They need to understand that stress is spiking or whatever. So we de-identify that information, aggregate it at the organizational level, provide that at scale to them. And I will just say, without throwing, we all live in glass houses. The data looks really good, but you should start asking the questions, what's driving the data, right? So our data is based off the session interaction between an employer and an employee. The average session is 45 minutes. We got rich data. And I will put our coaches and our platform against any tech stack and say, you want to interrogate the data at the base layer, and we'll see. The reality is we can give you topical analysis, understand the pulse check of your company in a way that's realistic but confidential.
That's helpful. Thank you. I was thinking that's probably on their mind. So let's talk about your leadership, your building of this company. For starters, you've taken outside money.
Yep.
You've raised outside money.
Yep.
So as a faith-driven leader, how did you think about building your cap table?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I had no money. Let's start with that. When God says go start a company, you're like, newsflash, if you were in the Marines and a major, you weren't exactly rolling in dough. So that wasn't an option set. And an investor of mine in the early days said, God's will, God's bill. I thought, what? And honestly, I can't say anything else besides people came out the woodwork, people I didn't know, to provide support financially to get this thing going, knowing full well the likelihood of this not working. They're still here with us today. And I'm really grateful for that. But we were very careful about who we let on the cap table. So for anybody who's fundraising, getting somebody on the cap table is still difficult, but it's much easier to get them on the cap table than to get them off the cap table. And money has faces. And so we wanted a 10-year, 20-year relationship with our investors. I want to be able to have a cup of coffee or beer with these guys and gals and say, I like these people as humans. And if this works out, great. And if it doesn't, also great. But I would have them hang out with my family. Are we aligned in values? Do they know who I am and how we plan on leading? And in those conversations, they got to interview me and I got to interview them. And honestly, I'm ecstatic about the investors on our cap table.
You, I feel like, are a little bit unusual as a founder in that you were already plugged into some faith-based investing communities like faith-driven investors, sovereign capital.
Sure.
Do you have to, is everybody on your cap table have to be a Christian?
No. Everybody on our cap table is not Christian. Everybody on our cap table cares about the human condition, though. They care about where is humanity and society going, and how do we help humans be more human? That's what they care about. They also care about, hey, let's bet on a team that we think there's a chance of success, and do we believe in the value proposition? So they're smart business people who care about humans. Many of them happen to be Christian, but that's not a requirement at all to be on the cap table.
Yeah. With regard to governance in your board, in the peer group that you're in, there's been some conversation about this, and many times it's a challenge.
Yep.
How do you see that? What's your philosophy about how you engage with your board?
Yeah, I mean, my kids are always like, what do you mean you have a board? I think governance and oversight is essential. There's a reason why we have that oversight. It's because if you're building a cult, it's around a person. If you're building a company, it has to be a system. We're not building a cult. We're building a company. And that means we have to have oversight and governance on who does what, how can they do it, where does the money go, how does all of this flow. I'm really fortunate to have people who've been with us since day one on the board and helping us make sure that we make the right decisions for not only our shareholders, but also our members and our employers that we work with and our coaches and the public benefit that we, in our bylaws, are required to provide.
Yeah.
They can bring all that together, and they happen to be really successful business people. So they've gotten the bruises, they know what's going on, and they can help me kind of see some things that I definitely don't see.
Yet I've heard you say several times there's clarity that they hired you to do a job.
That's right. So I think I can't speak for everybody's role and interaction. If you hired a CEO, you hired a CEO. One of my board members said, hey, I got one lever. I can fire you or I can hire you. And he will keep me on this chair so long as he trusts my leadership. But he expects me to lead. Make the call. There's no right answer. Make the call. Execute it forcefully. Learn things when it don't work out. And over-communicate. And he allows me to do that. And she allows me to do that. And the board members that are on my team allow me to say, you're the jockey on the horse. Ride that horse. And if you don't ride it well, we'll swap you. Right? But I don't want to be the jockey you micromanage. That ain't the CEO you hired.
Yeah, I feel like there's been great clarity through your communication on that. To the extent that you're comfortable talking about this, I didn't think about this until just now. So you have a co-founder.
Yeah.
Somebody you really respect.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's well known, and he's done some great things, and he is a great partner to you.
He is.
At a certain point, the decision was made that he was not going to be in the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
There are a lot of small, medium-sized business owners out there with partners and partner health issues. Talk about how you navigated that.
Yeah. So, a co-founder. Look, marriage is a whole different level of covenantal promise to each other. It's different. But the number one destroyer of value, enterprise value, is typically the founding team breakup. It's like one of the biggest risks, right? We didn't have that. He's my best friend, one of my best friends. I talk to him every week still. We always promised ourselves that we would work on this crazy thing together until such time that one of us might be called out to do something different. That was both ways. And William felt like he was being called somewhere else. And we were at a place where we kind of knew what we were starting to do together. And our roles were much more clear. So we had a healthy conversation about where is he being called? How can I be supportive? What does the company need? Are we in a good position for that transition? And what could have been a very ugly process wasn't. There was a lot of emotion. Two best friends trying to figure out what to do for the best interest of our company. But there was no animosity. It was just, wow, this part of our season is coming to an end. I still talk to him every week, though.
Safe to say that you all having shared values there and a shared faith and
totally.
worldview allowed you to navigate that truly as stewards of this thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was never ours to begin with. It's still not ours now. So it was just a question of what's in the best interest of what we've been asked to steward.
So Forte serves large pastor groups, large public schools, the public-private sector.
Yep.
And yet you are very faith-forward.
Yeah.
When you and I first met, you said, I actually feel like I'm being called to be a CEO/pastor.
Yeah.
So how does that play out day to day? How does your faith make its way into Forte?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is most of our customers were non-Christian customers in the first several years of our life, and they're still with us. Employers don't care about my personal faith values. What they care about is how do I deliver the services and products that they asked me to deliver. If you deliver something with excellence, I don't think anybody cares, right? I don't think you know your accountant's faith value. You just know your books are reconciled, filed appropriately, right? That's what they care about. They don't care about how you deliver. What they care about is excellence. And then if there is excellence delivered, they might ask you, what makes you different? Then there's an opportunity to talk about faith. So my faith, which is my personal faith, it doesn't affect necessarily whether you're a Christian organization or not. That has nothing to do with it. We serve the people the same way. It does manifest in the product. The Imago Dei principle, which is we're all made in God's image, is throughout our product. There's not a single word of Christian stuff in that product. But it does mean that regardless of your race, your gender, your identity, your title, your role, your political affiliation, your social and economic class, we serve you like the human that you are. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the way we show up to you. And I don't know what employer doesn't want their employees to be treated like the amazing human they are. That's how we integrate that faith into our product. But we serve blockchain companies, publicly funded institutions, accounting firms. It doesn't really matter, and they wouldn't call themselves secular or non-secular. They're just like, I'm an accounting firm, I'm a blockchain company, I'm a hospital group. What they care about is what their employees say, how they've heard and felt.
They might, I might not be asking the values of my accounting firm, but I want to know I can trust them, right? So I'm thinking lived values.
Yeah,
I'm looking for signals there.
You know what's interesting? What I think gives them a lot of ease is they're really worried about, hey, my employees are going to talk about all the stuff, all the guts of their life. How do we know that you're not going to sell our data? Because unfortunately, a lot of therapy companies have been selling their data, if we're just being honest with ourselves.
And you kind of present like a dude who likes data.
I love data. I'm a data nerd, right? We will never sell data. Because as an intel guy, you got trained, you will die for your source before you give your source up, because you cut off all source of information to protect your American troops. I don't need a legal contract to tell me that. I will just not do it. We had a Fortune 50 company ask us to give them identifiable information. I first showed them the contract, and they said, yeah, we need you to do it. And I said, I will tear this contract up. And they were our biggest customer. They're not anymore our biggest customer. We're not trading on our values. I don't need a piece of paper for that. That's just who I am.
Then in terms of how those values, your faith in those values have played out internally and with your team, your core team, and then the coaches that work for you, talk about that. And I'll prime that by saying I was privileged to be a part of a 360 interview process for you.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was hearing 3 people who work for you in a row, not, who are both believers and not, suggest that when we were talking about stop, start, and continue, every one of them said the one thing they think Vineet should continue is going for a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so everybody hears from the Lord differently. I found myself, you put your phone away, you go outside in the woods, you go walking, you see the beauty around you, and for some reason, that's when I hear from God the most clearly. And I think my people who work with me, I'm very skeptical of any idea I come up with. I am 100% convicted of anything that God tells me to do. That's it. And conviction in leadership is what matters. Because if you are convicted, your people will follow you wherever you want to go, typically. If you care for them, they will. That's been my experience in Iraq. That was my experience in Afghanistan. That's been my experience in Cambridge or the Pentagon. The idea is not what matters, is do they trust you as a human to care for them, and are you convinced that you would put your neck out for them too? And if that's true, they'll run with you. And that's true for here at the company. Every single weird, nonsensical thing we've done at this company was not my idea, right? I would have never served the church in the way we serve, because I thought that's going to be impossible. It'll take forever. Well, we're serving lots of churches now. That wasn't my idea. We serve private schools and public schools, and now I can see the thread line. If your product as an employer is people, i.e., a school, a nonprofit, a church, a healthcare organization, that's probably not going to be outsourced altogether by AI or machinery. You still need a teacher. You still need a pastor. You still need a nurse or a doctor. You still need a lawyer to go do some things. Well, then they're going to want somebody to take care of their people. That wasn't a thing that we thought of early. That was just given to us over time. So that's a long answer to your question. If I'm convinced, I will go run pretty hard. And in a startup, you just need clarity of decision and execution. You don't have answers.
Knowing you, I knew what the purpose of those walks is.
Yeah.
And what was really cool was how consistent your team was that he comes back with better ideas.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's where your conviction comes from, because you're truly seeking on those walks. You probably wish you did them more. It sounds like your team wishes you did them more.
100%. I wish I did it more. I wish I did it more.
So before we start taking some questions, and I want to invite everybody, if you have any questions, please hit the QR code. Feel free to submit them. We'll take a few. We have a special guest who's going to be reading them off. But I want to talk about the fruit. So you're 4 years in, right, with Forte?
4.5 years.
4.5 years in.
Yeah.
What's some of the fruit that you've seen as a result of Forte, or the way you have felt led to lead.
Are you saying for the employees that we serve?
It could be employees, it could be your family, it could be certainly the clients and customers you serve.
Yeah.
Any stories you can share
Yeah,
there?
totally. We serve one of the largest school districts in the country. They got over 20,000 employees. And I was talking to some leadership recently and just sharing at a high level some initial stories that we're hearing. And somebody said recently, this is just from this one school district, and employees thought it was so good, too good to be true, that they got offered this thing that they thought Forte was spam. It was a phishing attack. Then they used it, and then they said, I plan on using every single session afforded to me. Like, I needed this so badly. That's interesting. Another teacher in the same organization then said, I'm already talking to a therapist. But this is somebody I can process the things that don't need therapy and that might not ever need therapy. That's the space that we live in. Most of us don't live in the requirement to have therapeutic intervention. And then we talked to a person who definitely needed therapy, but they were too afraid to leverage it. Their school district has a phenomenal tech stack, benefit stack. And talking to their Forte coach encouraged them to take the next step and say, hey, you need to see a clinician. And we're here to walk alongside you while you do that. So that's the beauty of the human condition. Some of us are in the shallow end, or we're fine, thank God, we're doing great, but we can process things of everyday life. Some of us already recognize that we need to see a clinician, and you can get additional support. And some of us are trying to run away from the requirement of talking to a clinician. So that's some of the fruit that we've just seen in one customer just in the last 2 weeks that we're really proud of. I think I did not expect a Google project manager, an executive coach, a therapist, and or a pastor, all of the personas on our platform as coaches, to tell me that how much this has been good for themselves, to call somebody from Idaho or wherever and just talk about that. And I was like, I did not expect that to be a positive thing.
Right.
So that's been huge for us. And then finally, what a treat it's been to be with some amazing humans on the Forte team and to build this thing and believe in a dream that we know the odds. And yet every day these guys and gals show up and put their heart and soul into the work. So I'm really fortunate to be alongside them and work with them.
It very much feels like it's just getting started.
Lord
right?
willing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as we invite Neylah up here, let me ask, and we'll introduce her when she gets up here. We'll do a little setup, but as we're doing that, I wonder if you can share, what is it you hope that people take away from this conversation?
Ooh. Well, one of my kids are here, but I would just say that, hey, we don't need to know the whole story, right? We don't need the whole story. All you got to do is take the next step of faith. You could be running a company and then starting a software company at the same time, like a lunatic in this room, and it's wildly successful already. And I think he would share, and he has shared, he's like, I felt unqualified and not ready for this, and look at the fruit of that, just that faithful next step. Everybody has that opportunity. Every single one of us has the opportunity to be in charge of a gazillion people like my friend over here and help them feel like humans, even though it's so freaking hard work. My dad did that kind of work, right? Everybody has a chance to do that kind of leadership and influence other people, and that's what I tell everybody. Take the next step. You got a role to play. All right. It was mic checked. Here we go.
So this is a little different. We haven't done this before. Thank you very much, Neylah. So, Vineet, do you know Neylah?
I do. This is my daughter, who's 10, and who I'm very proud of. And she's my little lion here. So very courageous to come up here and participate in this podcast. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Let me get you working right here so you can hear yourself. Can you hear yourself okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, Neylah, thank you for joining us. Your dad's doing some pretty cool things. So I'm going to pull up a screen where people have been submitting questions, and you're going to get to read them to him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want, as his daughter, you have the right to ask your own question.
Ooh.
How's that?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I didn't sign up for that second part of the intro.
All right. Let's see. We'll click on this one. And all right, there you go.
Being several years into building a business from scratch, how do you keep family, marriage, work, and faith prioritized in the right order? Has it gotten harder or easier with time?
I don't know who planted that question, but that's a very timely question. It has gotten harder, if I'm being candid and honest. My kids, who I love, are much more active than they were 5 years ago, which means travel, baseball, and track, and all the things. Dating my wife has been increasingly more difficult with the all-the-time travel. In this faith journey, you go from like moments of like, oh, I know God's in this thing, to like, hey, where are you, right? And that's the realness of a journey that we're all on. If it was linear and straight, I probably wouldn't be interested anyway. It has been difficult to try to be a great husband, a great dad, a good CEO, and a good follower of Christ all at the same time. They're not different roles. They got to be integrated, and I'm learning how to integrate them really well, but I'm not there yet.
At Forte, you talk about and you preach getting your reps in, your mental fitness reps in.
Right.
And yet, I know you. I won't share specifics, but I know you even recently to ask in these different areas, family, marriage, and so forth.
Yeah.
For opportunities to get your reps in.
That's right. My reps in certain parts of my life are deficient, and you got to recognize that. And there's no shame in that, actually. Like, I think the most courageous thing to do is put a mirror to yourself and say, are you getting the reps in every part of your life? And I'm not. I'll be the first. I built this company. I think God called me to build this company because I needed it more than anybody else. And so, as much as I love everybody else, I think God's like, he's making me hold a mirror to myself and say, dude, you got some work to do with me. And so I'm deficient.
He's got a track record for working that way, doesn't he?
Yeah. He sure
All right.
does.
We'll ask one more question, and then I'm going to open it up to you. And I might have a question for you if you're open to it. So give him one more.
You hinted at imposter syndrome with your recent traction and success. Do you still grapple with this? How would you encourage other entrepreneurs who deal with this same concept?
Oh yeah. I mean, do I got imposter syndrome? Get in line, guys and gals. Come on. It's probably, hopefully that will, in getting my reps in and talking to people and walking this out, maybe that'll decrease. Hopefully it has it's not as nearly as bad as it once was. But hopefully it'll decrease, right? We have this identity that God says who we are, and then there's the identity that we say we are, and then there's the identity that people say that we are. And the more you can start to walk into the first with what God says, and then you hear that yourself, that imposter syndrome theoretically would diminish. I've got a long way in that journey to diminish that part of it. So we're still in that.
So Neylah, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Mm-hmm.
You okay with that? Thank you. What are you most proud of in terms of your dad and Forte, and your mom? Your mom's involved with the company, very involved with the company as well, right?
What are you most proud of?
What are you most proud of?
That they still, like, even though it's hard to go to work every day, they like still come back and like try their best to be like good parents to us.
That's good. That's good. What do you see in the way that your mom and dad work? What do you observe? How would you describe them to a friend on the playground?
Jeez.
I was on the computer. Working.
Mostly on the computer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah, that's good. Let's keep it at that high level, right?
Last question for you? Thank you. You've been a real sport. You didn't know you were going to be asked to do this, so I appreciate it. By the way, for our listeners, today is Take Your Child to Work Day, right?
Right. Yeah, I had both my kids at work, and
Yeah.
they were an interesting group in the office and meetings. Let's put it that way.
What?
Clearly, this is a big thing that is no longer a part of my world, so
Yeah.
I did not know, but this is a super pleasant surprise. So my final question for you with regard to your parents is, where was I going to go with this? Just, what do you need most from them? Say your dad. do you need most from them?
I don't know.
That's a tough one, I know. So you're running track, right?
Hmm.
You've got school. You play an instrument?
Yes.
What do you play?
Piano, I do singing too.
How can Daddy help you with more any of that stuff or anything?
I mean, nothing really. You already support me, and I mean, what else? I don't know.
That's okay. That's an okay answer.
I'll take it. I'll take a.
It's a test, you know, for on your dad. I was just making sure it's all okay.
There's no wrong answer. You did a great job.
No wrong answer. That was great. That was wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being willing to play along and participate. Vineet, brother, thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. The story continues, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Very honored. So thank you for our guests here today
Thanks,
as well.
everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers.